Hello, everyone. This is Stephanie, and I am here, Lady Obsidian, and I am here today with Rune Realms. I'm joined on the stage by Randy. He's going to be our main co-host today. And then Carlos is here from Rune Realms, and we also have Sir Windex and QuixG from the Notify team. So if you all want to all just quickly say hello. Randy, do you want to say hi?
Hi, Randy.
And Carlos.
Hello.
And then Sir Windex.
Hey.
And Quix.
G'day.
So now then you know all their voices sort of from the introduction there, and I'm going to pass it back over to Randy. Go ahead.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much. It's Friday. So for the entire House of Obsidian, I just want to let you guys know that as we're diving into Rune Realms, and they're going to talk about their project and a little bit about the involvement of how Notify and their technology is making an impact and changing the DeFi space one project at a time. I just want to remind you guys, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. We're going to educate. We're going to hopefully excite you guys, and hopefully maybe introduce you to a project that you may like and may want to invest in. And I personally have had the opportunity to talk to all these guys beforehand, and I think you guys are in for a ride. So I just want to point over just to recap a little bit over on the channel side. If you have questions, make sure you go to the AMA questions. If you want to have some just general conversation, they've got the ledger area. A couple of weeks back when I was doing an AMA, somebody was paying attention to my filler words, and they were saying that I say a lot. So the challenge back then was just like Matt's awesome challenge. However many times I say I'm going to go out and I'm going to do some push-ups. So I'm going to put that in front of the community. If you count the times that I say that word, I'm not going to say it. Don't catch me on it. I will, at the end, I will meet that challenge. So let's go. No, Pi. No, you are not supposed to count yet. Bad Pi. Okay.
I hope I don't have to do that challenge because I'm not a native English speaker, so most likely I have 300 filler words, and that will be bad.
Well, it's okay. Everybody has their own word. Mine is that word that I can't say. Matt has awesome, and I think Jesse has one also. So
I don't know what Jesse's is.
We're going to now I'm thinking, now it's in my head, guys. Oh my goodness, this is in my head. Well, we're going to go ahead and move into this project and what you have going on. Carlos, Windex, Quix, thank you so much for being here today. Just before we get started and go diving in really deep, I would like for you to just give an overview of the project.
So Rune Realms basically is a play-to-earn game that started production a little bit over a year ago. And it's funny because people that are in the Obsidian console were able to see a little bit of the behind the scenes of the project and basically the development of it. As basically any other person, we started looking into the play-to-earn sphere when you had the boom of Axie Infinity, Illuvium, and so on. And as pretty much veterans in the industry, in the entertainment industry, we were looking at the industry being shaped in a way that we thought that basically would be the future of gaming in general. Not only in the part of the earning, but also in the part of the NFTs in general and how they could be used to have ownership of the game. So that basically unlocks a player dynamic with a studio that otherwise it would be impossible to have, and we basically decided to start creating Rune Realms. Initially, we were building a Clash of Clans-like game, and that is still the idea, is a MMORTS. But then due to basically looking at Web3 space in general and how hard it actually is to build in Web3 right now, and we are super lucky to have the Notify team supporting us in that, we decided to basically to release a more idle game just to get it going and to show people our ability to bring a product to market, and also like the quality of our art, which everyone basically points at that. And yeah, and basically build like a full product that is 100% done, and we are just working now on the marketing and also the Web3 part of it.
Wow, that's really great. Do you want to go into a little bit of the storyline of Rune Realms?
Yeah, so like the Rune Realms, like you mean like the lore of the game, right?
Correct.
What storyline? Okay. Yeah, so it's set like in the Norse mythology. What happened is that Odin basically he sacrificed himself to gain true knowledge, and during that sacrifice, it happened that a drop of his blood went to the realm of the Dark Elves, right? So they ended up like infecting the Yggdrasil, that is like the tree of life, and by doing that, they basically started destroying the other realms. So in this first phase, that is the Rune Realm Rebirth, that is the mini game that we are releasing. You are pretty much taking on the role of cleaning up that mess. So you have like your golems and you have their shrines that when you connect them together, they basically start cleaning the tree, and by that you are rewarded with runes. And then as the story evolves, the idea is that in our basically MMORTS, you're going to be basically the one building that realm, right? So each one will be able to choose a faction, and then from each faction you can basically build the entire world in a way. And as of anything that has creation, that also has destruction. So you'll have to battle with other people for resources and to grow your empire.
Wow, that sounds great. That sounds like a lot of fun. When do you plan on releasing?
Um, so right now we are again like we have like the mini game completely done. Most likely we're thinking about releasing it between December or January, and then after that, like a year from releasing the mini game, release the core game, the Rune Realms Clash.
So what's with the mini game? Kind of describe the mini game itself, and then what is the plan for the next phase?
Yeah, so like the mini game is basically like an idle game, and even being an idle game, I think that that Quicks and Dex can basically testify to that. That even though it's an idle game, it's a very simple game. It is also a super complex game, um, just in the mechanics that you have in the game, right? So the way that it basically works is you have your land that is unlocked for free, and then you have golems that you can basically collect the golems that are NFTs, and also you have like the shrines. So each shrine basically only starts working when you have a golem attached to it. And by attaching them, you basically start mining rooms again to have the part of where you are basically cleaning the tree. Now, there are a couple of other like details, like for example, if you connect like two golems that are in the same element, you get a bonus. And then depending on the rarity of the golem and the rarity of the shrine, you get different themes. So for example, a rare shrine can give you like more slots to add golems and so on. So that's basically our phase one for that particular project for the mini game. And then on a phase two, on a second update, we are actually introducing a dungeon crawler. So you can use your golems in the future to go in and battle and gain items and so on. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's really cool. So when the first release comes out, that's going to be the mini game. When do you anticipate that next phase to be unlocked? Is there what is that criteria to meet that second phase?
Um, like in terms of the of developing the game itself for its second phase, that is like super fast to do. Well, not super fast, but it's faster to do. I think that for us, it's more of a question of looking in the integration of Web3 and how we can create the product in a way that it makes sense, and also in the way that we balance the economy for that game in particular. Um, it is very, very hard to balance like a play to earn game economy. And we want to make sure that with this product, we can basically test the market and then release things in phases. But it'll take us around like 4 to 6 months to release that second phase of the game.
Yeah, one thing I want to just one thing I like to do when talking with AMAs is taking a scope back, because a lot of times we're talking, we're having a good time here, we're getting to learn about this new project, and sometimes we just look at the face value of, it's a game, I want to possibly invest in a game or play the game. But I think that it's important for us to take a step back and look at, what does it take to make a game, to see the value of what that investment is, and then carry that into what is why is this such a great deal? So can you tell me what it takes what has it taken for you guys to get to this step? And what does it take to tell me a little bit about the game development itself, and who the team players are.
Yeah, like that's basically like lots of countless sleepless nights as well. So basically, for you to develop a game, especially like we need basically to step back and look into Web 2 production and then going back into the Web 3 part of the game. When you look at the Web 2 production of the game, it is very different to build like for a Web 2 environment than building to an Web 3 environment. When you build Web 3, you need to think about things like, for example, rewarding the players. And not only that, like small things like, for example, an in-game item can be completely broken and break the entire economy. So you need to take in consideration a couple of these things. But basically, like the way that any game starts is by going through the visual development phase. You get the idea, you write the story for the game, and then you start basically developing the visual idea of the game. Whereas basically you have like the concept art phase of the game, and then after you basically pass through that part where you get a visual idea on how the game will look like and if that is the direction that you want to take, that is basically a part where you need to create your GDD. Basically, the GDD is your game development. The game, I forgot the name, is a game development document, where basically you define everything that is going to happen in the game, from the lore perspective, from characters, from like what a building does, for example. You basically add all of the elements in that GDD. And then you actually need to go into a phase where you need to create like these massive flowcharts just to see how everything interacts in the game for you to be able to actually to build that. So when you are in the process of having a written document and then the art, you kind of need to help like translate that to people that are going like to develop and code the game. That's why you create the flowcharts, and you start so they can have like a map to look at like on how each aspect of the game will interact. And these things are actually like super interesting because you need to go in detail exactly what a button does. So for example, even if you just basically created the map for the main menu, you need to make sure that you have like a representation if you're going to have like a play button, for example, to play a trailer, because they need to know what they need to build in order for that to function. And then after that phase, it's basically just like the polishing phase, is where you are adding animations, the game design UI, and just like special effects and so on. So
You make.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just about to say that it's. I've never built a game. I see games, I play games, I love games. I see what the art, even though you're talking about the art and doing the flow charts and stuff. The art on your guys' project is unbelievable. It looks super, super cool.
Thank you. Yeah, like our artist, like his name is Rodrigo Pascual. He's our art director, and the guy is just like, he's a machine. He's amazing. And the entire like game development team, they are like super experienced as well. In 2020 or 2021, if I'm not mistaken, they released a game called Retro Machina that won a Game of the Year award in Brazil, and it is also like the kind of the same style as ours. It's like a isometric style, like fully painted. We actually don't use. If you look at the game, it looks like it has like 3D elements, but it really doesn't. It's all like hand painted. That's why it also takes a little bit more time to build it. because we have like the time to actually take care of things and hand paint everything and make sure that the art looks amazing. And yeah, like Rodrigo he's an amazing artist. Like he's not human.
Well, I think that's really great that you point out who he is and the experience that he has. Because a lot of times, even in the DeFi and GameFi space, there's a lot of projects that just kind of pop up, and they do
Hmm.
things where they do maybe NFT type of financial fundraise, and then they go
Yeah.
into possibly by, developing the game, but what ends up happening is nothing actually ends up happening, or the quality of the product is subpar or low. But I'm looking at what you guys have, and it seems even your business dynamic is different. It's unique and it's more flushed out. So I love I first off, I love the artwork. If those were NFTs, I would buy. Like, send me a link. I'm buying right now. Um,
uh,
so so tell me, okay, so your artist, your uh, how many people are on your team that are artists?
I actually have like a background as a concept artist, and then my other two co-founders for Rune Realms, I tried to get them to the call today, but they are traveling. They are also artists. So not like in the sense of concept art. We have like many. He like we are now like all entrepreneurs, but we all have backgrounds as artists. So Manny is actually a former VFX artist that worked like for studios like DreamWorks, NCSoft, and so on. So if you guys go like to the end title of like How to Train Your Dragon, Kung Fu Panda, Shrek 2, Pirates of the Caribbean, you can actually see his name in the in the credits. His name is Manny Fragilis, and Ted, that is our other co-founder. He is also a former VFX artist, but then he transitioned to becoming a texture artist. And he also worked on Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, like Speed Racer, How to Train Your Dragon 2, Spyro the Dragon, Ratchet and Clank, and so on. Again, if you guys go to the credit, you can see their names in there. And it's so funny because both of them they really helped shape an industry before. I'm not sure if you guys know the show Afro Samurai.
I'm not familiar.
It's like an anime show that is like it looks like 2D, but it's actually 3D. That style was actually built entirely by Ted. So he basically created all of the shading for that, and he basically recreated that style where it looks like 2D for 3D at the time when they released the show. So they're like super good at what they do. And then now basically like the three of us, we run a business that is called City Master Academy. That is an academy that is like one of the largest online academies to train people in concept art, VFX, animation, and so on. You know, so like the entire team has a good eye for when it comes to art and animation and design and so on.
Yeah, well, that's clear. Like, just if anybody has questions on like what are they talking about the art? Well, their links are in the AMA dash deets. There's the Medium articles in there. Their Discord's on there. They have some pictures of the mini game and some of the golems and some of the concepts that it looks 3D, but that is painted, which is it's blowing my mind right now. The fact
Yeah,
that you
that
guys are able to do that
you're
is
saying that
so,
and I'm looking at it. It's amazing.
it is super super cool. I'm not even playing the game right now. I'm like, oh man, I want to play. I want to play this now. So tell me a little bit about the space where do you guys what with Rune Realms as a game? What would you consider as a similar type of games or possibly competition when you release or when you're available?
Like for Rune Realms, like the mini game, you do have like other projects that are like that did the same. And even for us, like for example, one project that for us was an inspiration is Mobox, in the way that they basically created their NFTs that can mine tokens and so on. What we are trying to do though is improving the way that we have, for example, binding mechanisms of the token and also tokenomics, which is still a work in progress. But we are basically trying to be like super careful on how we build the tokenomics of the game and how we basically use the tokens in the game. For the core game, the best thing that you can look at really it's basically Clash of Clans because you're building an MMORPG game just like Clash of Clans. The way that the game will work though, it will be a combination between oh, I forgot the name. Is it Rise of Kingdoms? Like for the let me just 1 second. Uh, Yeah, it's Rise of Kingdoms. So if you can look like at the way like if you want to look to have an idea on how the core game will work, you can look at the way that the map in Rise of Kingdoms work, but instead of being like you against the environment, it will be you against other players. So you can basically evade like their you can evade like basically their realms and fight with them. Yeah, and that will be basically a combination between the two, between Clash of Clans and Rise of Kingdoms. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So what is the Rune Realms? What is, I don't know if you talked about this just yet.
Mhm.
What chain is it on, and what is the native token?
Polygon and yeah, and basically you're going to use like just runes as a token. Like
Why did
it's go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just saying, why did you choose Polygon?
That was actually a recommendation from Quicks, and but in some like we actually had like other chains in mind. One of the other chains that we actually sat with the team to talk with them was Moonbeam, but the thing is that releasing a game, you need to look into what makes sense in terms for the player in terms of costs, and also for us as a team to release the game in terms of costs, and also the adoption of the chain. So we got to a point that we are in between like AVAX and Polygon, but we opted in like to just develop on Polygon.
I think Polygon is hot right now.
Yeah.
Polygon is like on fire with some of the development that's going on chain. You've got some major brands like Meta and Starbucks and other major major brands jumping and producing and developing on chain. I think it's a smart choice. And and it's low cost,
It is.
which I think is a great formula.
Yeah,
So you
but I
tell
like
I'm sorry,
I
go ahead.
think that like Polygon like is one of the best chains that we have right now in general. Like one other chain that is actually interesting is Solana. I think that my only problem with Solana is that there are times that they can go like down for like 3 hours for no reason, and you can't do any transaction, and that wouldn't work for a game. So, yeah.
No, that would not. Solana's got some things in the background that's happening, and we'll see how that all that pans out. It's super hot in the NFT market,
Hmm.
and that's really great to see. And I know you're involved with a lot of things in this on the Solana chain with NFTs,
Yeah.
with Rune Realms about to be released. What is the first phase of are you doing whitelists? Are you doing what are you doing with the first phase of Rune Realms?
Yeah, so it will be like a normal pre-sale. I think that the only difference that we basically worked it backwards, where we create an MVP and a product first, and then we are working on towards like the pre-sale of the product. But the cool part about that is that once the pre-sale is done, it will be like a couple of weeks for people to actually to be able to start jumping into the game and playing the game. But yeah, like it will be like a normal like whitelist pre-sale, and then you'll be able to unlock a couple of golems and shrines to get started. And of course, like by that, you like we are still working on a couple of details about the pre-sale. But one thing that we can say for sure is that one, you'll have a chance of getting a higher rarity from the pre-sale than just like joining the game and like in normal game, like outside of the pre-sale. And also, you're also going to get like a mining boost on during the pre-sale. Well, not during the pre-sale, by buying from the pre-sale.
Right on. Well, that's right around the corner. That's in December. We also have here, and we haven't we haven't talked to the Notify guys too much here, and I want to make sure that they have a little bit of a space because I know that they have some involvement with Rune Realms. Can you tell me a little bit about what what is Notify doing with Rune Realms to make this unique, special, or make this happen?
Is it a question for me or for
Do you
the
want to take it,
Notify team?
Carlos? You can take it.
Oh
You can
man,
talk
no,
about how great we
like
are.
Notify like is the best team ever. Like without
Nice.
Notify, it
The
wouldn't be
best
possible to
team
build Rune Realms.
ever.
Literally, like these guys
Too
are
kind.
amazing. But you can take it. I mean what I'm saying though, but you can take it, please.
Sure. So
Basically a mic drop. He's like best team ever. Mic
Yeah,
drop.
right. So
no, they're
we met Carlos on the team. I want to say like 4 months, maybe 3 or 4 months ago. And when they approached us and said, "Hey, we're building a game. This is our background." Like we got to speak to them and got to learn about who they are and what their professional careers have looked like and their background and their experience. And then when they sort of added to that, like this is the plan. We have this sort of phase 1 game into a phase 2 game, and this is sort of like how the whole system works. And then they said, phase 1 game is basically already built. We just need to, Web3ify it as such. We don't have smart contracts. We need to, have some sort of infrastructure in place set up for the assets, for the content. We need to make NFTs. We need to have a service contract. Like all these bits and pieces started coming together, and it was sort of like the perfect fit because our business is really catered around helping creators or builders actually build. Like we want to go out of our way and make sure that we are able to build a product together with different companies like Rune Realms or like Alpha Shares or like other businesses we're working with, and create a great product that has a great user experience, right? Like that's the most important thing. And so we sort of just felt like the teams just really worked together on that level from a background perspective and a experience perspective. And then so yeah, we started working on the bits and pieces that are required to get the game up and running. We've been working on that for the best part of the last few months, maybe 2 months or so. So that's everything from the NFT contracts through to the game's logic layer, any of the required infrastructure to run the game, all of the bits and pieces. So we get to work with Carlos and their awesome team sort of quite frequently. We get together and just chat about the game and go through the large spider web of logic that is the game, which is really awesome. It's great to have a game that has more depth to it, even though it is just a phase 1. Like it's surprisingly complicated around, min-maxing the game, let's say. So there's quite a lot there. It's quite fun.
Oh, and like not only that, like you guys also helped shape the game itself. Like a lot
Right.
of ideas from Notify
Of
team.
course, yeah. I should of
And
course add
yeah.
like the tokenomics and structure around that. Like a lot of
Yeah.
the experience we draw from is of course we have our own product that we've launched and we sort of know the ins and outs of how to create a product, and then we also know how to build. Pretty much, we can sort of build whatever. Really, we can build anything. And so coupling that experience together with the Rune Realms team, who have that sort of like background in animation and building games and design and so on, like it's sort of the perfect sort of recipe in that sense. So yeah,
You make
no.
it you make it sound so easy. It's like, yeah, we just kind of sit back here. We just know how all this stuff works together, and we're like genies. And they had 3 wishes. That was just one of them. We've got 2 more to go. We got a lot of
Well,
stuff
I
happening.
really hope not because it's incredibly complicated. Like I don't want to ever sit here and say like building this stuff is easy. Like it's like minimum 15 hours a day of work, right? Like it's no
Like
joke.
you need to look like I know like a little bit of development, like enough to understand the language, but when I sit like on a call with between like Quicks and Valnei, that is our game developer, like sometimes like on site like googling things, we kind of like, what are these dudes talking about? It's like it's like I know like I look at the product, it's like our game, but I still need to check sometimes like to see like, wait, what is this? Like
Well,
yeah.
well, on top of all of that, I imagine with a game, there's probably a lot of data and a lot of coordinating data and data delivery. Like what? How
Yeah,
I'm guessing
yeah,
that's
there
a
is.
Unify thing.
There's lots of events and so on that happen to, basically because you have, in the similar way that you would build any like Web3 based application, whether it's a marketplace, a shop or a game or whatever, like at the end of the day, a lot of that is Web 2 technology. Like it's not, we all talk about Web 3 technology and smart contracts, but a smart contract is a very small aspect of actually running a product and creating a product. Right? It's just a little piece, but it's sort of what people in the industry think of as like, if you're not a developer, that's the whole product. It's a smart contract. And for a lot of products it is. Like if you look at insert any name and add finance on the end, like, Rainbow Finance or whatever it is, any of these products I'm referring to, they're just smart contracts. Like there's not actually a product there behind it. It's just a smart contract. And so when you start to tie these things together, you need, databases, you need caches, you need content delivery networks, you need to have like an actual good user experience. If you shift, building products away from just making money and greed into actually producing something that users say, damn, this is fast, or damn, this feels really fun to play. Like it actually becomes, like, that's what we are trying to do. That's what we want to build. But it becomes far more complex because there's so much more involved in that process to build a world-class product, which is why you don't see them a lot in Web3, because it's more just about, a lot of teams are just making it to sort of make money and forget about the rest. But and that's what we noticed, when we met Carlos and so on and the team, we were just like, no, these guys are actually, they have a good idea. They have the right mentality. They're not here to just make something like random node project or random finance project. It's actually a good idea with a long-term plan, and that's this like perfect partner for us to get involved with.
Yeah, what I really like here is that Rune Realms brought the Notify guys on to this AMA, and there are other projects that do AMAs, but there's something to be said with having those technology partners. Notify's been around, and they're genies. These guys are straight up wizards, and for them to take on a project and for them to back a project, even with their technology and their skills and even their big brains of theirs. I really like when you come into these AMAs and you talk about what you do and what you're doing for a project, because it also, for an investor on the other side, for people listening to this, sometimes the question is, it sounds like a good idea, the game sounds good, but do they have the team? Do they have the technology? Do they have the effort to make this happen? And with the partnership of Notify, it sounds like Carlos and their team was able to link up with a great technology partner.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're really happy,
I think I think that that's something that again, like what we was saying, that when we approached them, we already had pretty much like a product done. The thing is that usually people don't take this in consideration, that when you are releasing a product, you really need to think of the multiple different aspects of the product, not just in the part of how are going to have the pre-sale, but you need to think about the quality of the project, and if it is actually something that that you want to bring to the market in the first place, right? So at the end of the day, me and my co-founders, we are Web2 founders, and we have an integrity and a level of standard that we need to maintain, because we are a public team as well, right? So for that to happen, we need to basically to make sure that whatever we are doing, it needs basically to meet a certain standard. And the only way for it to basically to meet that certain standard is, one, if you take enough time to actually to build that, and second, if you basically work with talented people. Again, our game design team, they're just extremely talented, and the Notify team, I can say that they might be the best team in Web3. So yeah, it's just for you to build something that makes sense, you need to have talent working on it.
I love that. And before we go into some of the general questions, because there's quite a bit here, I want to make sure that there's time for it. Can you tell me a little bit about Meta Studios?
Yeah, so Rune Studios basically is the company. It's our basically main company. It's an actual company registered here in Portugal, and the idea is that besides Rune Realms, we have plans on building other products in Web3. and also more than that, also build like Web2 products. So one of the things that we are looking into incorporating in the future, and maybe like it will happen like a year from now in the release of the core game, is transition between having just basically an emission of tokens, because I'm the first to admit that looking at the cases of play to earn over and over again, that's not a very sustainable model in the long run. But we're looking into ways that we can build more products and enable a revenue share for people that that participate like in the game. And what that revenue share basically will look like, it's a revenue share from Meta Studio in general, that is from the development of Web2 games, have like the studio as a service. So let's say that, for example, House of Obsidian wants to create like an epic like game. We can basically build that and like in a sort of a deal, either like on a percentage base or just like on a core fee project. That is revenue that we can generate for the company that will basically be given back to quote unquote investors. For you guys to have an idea, I think that even like Quicks and Dex don't know about this. Before we started actually creating Rune Realms in general, we actually sat down with a couple of other studios to see like what would cost us to build that game entirely. And we were getting like quotes from like, around like 4 like to 5 million to build that game, especially just because of the part of the Web3 component of the game. When you look at, for example, at building a game in Web2, the cost is not as insane as Web3. So I think that like you can build like games for right now. We actually have like a pitch for a game that is like around 400,000, and it is a Web2 game. And I think that like that is something that will be interesting to play around into, having like the studio also creating games for other projects and also releasing like more games that then we can enable the revenue share. And hopefully by then we can also like, when it comes like to Web3, we can just like show at Notify, say, hey, this guy seems cool. We are the guys building the game. Do you want to take care of this? So I think that will be like, again, like the idea is for everything that we do, we have like a long-term partnership in everything. So yeah, but that's the core of Meta Studio. We just want to build games and have fun with what we do.
I love that. So it's not just a side hustle. You want to come up with a game because you had this really brilliant idea. That's what Meta Studio is. That's who Carlos is. That's what his team does. And not only are they do they have a passion for it, but they have artists that have had successful award-winning games and really talented, super talented artists. I love that. So
And that's that was the first thing we thought as well. Is like when we saw that, it was like, what's the and I think this is a good thing that I would highly recommend sort of everyone doing whenever they listen to an AMA or talking to anyone about a project is, what's the percentage chance of actually delivering this? Like based on the people talking here and based on what they're actually, the product is and their backgrounds and experience. Because I've joined many AMAs and, you know, there's a lot of discussion. But I think actually shipping something shows so much more than just talking about something. And you know, for us, like when we first saw that, we were like, okay, the game is already done, the phase 1 of the game, so we know that that's going to go out the door because it's up to us now to get it out the door. And so then it was like, you know, okay, there's going to be a phase 2, and the people that are involved are going to be the same people for that. So it's like, I think that's just a really you know, a testament to the team, and it's one of the key things that we look for. And I think it's a key thing that definitely should be highlighted.
And like one other thing like to point out is that we have right now a very tailored like 10-year plan for what we want to do with Meta Studio as a company, right? So it's not just like Rune Realms as a product, but as a company itself, like we have like a 10-year plan on what we want to do with the company. And if you can even go like the Wayback Machine, like our 10-year plans usually they kind of work. Like CGMA is in the market for 11 years. And we just have like the patience to build things and make things like work. At the end of the day, like we are like builders and we like to build, right? We often play that we kind of like miss playing with Legos as a kids. So now we just build things. That's basically what we like to do. And when you mix something that is our passion for creativity with entrepreneurship, then that is basically where basically the core team shines. And of course, like you have like again, you have like I can't express enough like that is basically tooting my own horn, where I can express enough like on how good the guys that are taking care of like the game development and the art they actually are, because they're like extremely insane at what they do. um and I wish I could show. I showed Randy yesterday like one project that we are working on. I wish I could show like the other projects that like we have in the pipeline, but unfortunately I can't because of NDAs. But I think that like as we release like more games, people will understand why I say that like the team is amazing. And
Yeah,
then there
I
is
can't.
me in the middle, just there.
You're so modest. You're so modest. I I work and I talk to people in the Web3 space and anything from NFTs with alpha shares to you guys to, DeFi. And when it takes a certain type of personality to have the grit and the strength and the ability to not just have the vision of a project, but to have the action to do it, and then the work ethic to see it through fulfillment. That's a rare thing, and that's something that I really want to highlight. I want to make sure that just a lot of people see that they're not just talking about a project and saying, "Hey, let's invest in an NFT," and hopefully there's going to be some payout structures of something in the future. The game is developed. They've got technology partners, they've got the project. Now it's about, and it seems to me like it's now you guys are in the marketing phase now. It's like trying to generate the community and the support for the product.
Yeah. Like I think that we could go like on on the route of having like, hey, let's release like an NFT first, and then we fund the project, and we build the game later on, right? So you can do like an NFT now, and then have spent like 3 years developing a game. I think that for us it's more important to have basically to go through the process of creating the product, and also not only in the standpoint of building the product, but also to understand what are the issues that we will face, for example, in the future, right? So I'm going to give like a very clear example. There are times, and I think that like Quicks get frustrated with me because I say like, oh yeah, that will be like down the line, and then Quicks is like, no, like we need to know like if that will really happen in the future, because once the smart contract is done, we can't change it. So like small things like that if you don't build a product, then you just like find issues like in the future. By building a product now, we can actually look into what are like the issues that we might find, and also create a blueprint for the next product. Right? We like it's impossible to say that the next product will be perfect, but at least we know like what we are facing in the future as well. And I think that for us, like we need to have like a learning curve of what we can do and what we can build, and what are the limitations as well. And the best way to do that is basically just creating a product and releasing the product, right? And then like getting eyes on the product is not like the easy part, but it's the easier part from the process. So that's basically like how and why we started building the mini game. It's more around that idea. Um, uh, and yeah, and having a product, it's just like it's different, because people can actually look into the team and look that we're actually serious on what we're doing, and not just like an NFT, a promise of a future product, and you have cases that the product doesn't even deliver, right? So yeah, like the at this point, like the max that can happen is that if the project fails, you still have a game to play, and we can just update the game and make it like a less idle game, and allow everyone to play, which is like we don't want the game to fail, of course, but like, at least we have the product done and we can transform that into something else. But yeah, like it's just like is the nature of things. Like you have like two choices. One is like, again, like release an NFT, get funding, and then build, or you just build things and then see how it goes.
Sure. And that kind of goes in line with this one question that was just actually asked. What do you need to be able to play the game? Is it
Um, Yeah, so like to play the game, basically you can start with just like a shrine and a golem, and then basically those are like unlockable with loot boxes. I'm not sure. Like, can I share like images in the ledger? I was trying to
Yeah,
get, like the website up today, but they had issues with the DNS. So let me actually share a couple of things in
it
here.
might give me 1 second to catch up to giving you the role to make sure that it can work.
Okay. Well, like so you can like you need to basically to unlock like a golem and a shrine, and then after that you connect to the game and you can start basically mining the token. Of course, like that is a simplified version. You have a lot of other things that happen in the game. For example, you have like events that like can boost or decrease your mining. You need to pay attention to your goal is basically food level in a way. It's mead. You also need to take a look at the crystals for the shrine. If they are dying, you need to change that. There are a couple of of game mechanics that you need to take in consideration in order to maximize your runes. And then in the next phase, once you release like the dungeon crawler version of it, it just makes everything like more complex because we're introducing like something that we call like spirit shards. That is a item that is like super hard to find, but then once you find it, you can pretty much connect the items and have like a boost, or you can sell that or you will be able to sell that in the marketplace. So it will be like your choice in between boosting what you're mining or selling that in the marketplace.
Oh, I see. All right. Well, let's do this. It's about 7. I like to try to keep things around an hour. If it runs a little bit over, that's totally good. But I want to make sure that we have some time to go through some of the questions here. You guys okay with time?
Yes, I am.
Sure.
Okay. All right. And
Yep.
if it gets to the point where we're getting kind of close to that hour mark and we haven't had the opportunity to answer or ask the questions to get the answers, I just want to encourage everybody to go to the AMA-Deets channel. It does have the Discord for Rune Realms. We'll put the Notify one on there also. They have been here before, but we'll make sure that that's on there. There's I encourage everybody to go over to their Discord and go ahead and ask your questions. And as you can see here, Carlos and even the guys from Notify, pretty transparent, open book type of people. And I'm sure they'll be more than happy to have you over and ask whatever questions that you have. But let's go ahead and maximize the last bit of our time here and make sure that there's some questions. Steph, do you have any questions that you'd like to bring up?
Hi, yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. So the first question here is from Andy R. And well, first of all, I just want to make sure that we kind of clarified. So his very first question was the fact that it's free to play, but then you also have the Rune token that you can purchase different things for, and you need certain items within the game to be able to play. And so he had just kind of wondered, how does that work then? Like, it's free, but then I have to use a token to purchase, items I need for the game. Do you have any clarification with that piece?
The free to play will be on the core game. Like once you transition to the core game, it will be 100% free to play because the way that the overall tokenomics of the core game will change. Our idea for the core game is to have a more player driven economy. So what I mean by that is, for example, if you look at games like Guild Wars, for example, right, where when Guild Wars released like in 2012, they had their generation 1 of legendary weapons. Those weapons, you still can find them in the marketplace right now for around $150, right? And you can go in the route of either buying gems or gold in the game to buy the weapons in the game, or you can go in the route or in having like the chance of getting your account banned, buying from another player. So the way that we look at our core game is to not having not punishing the player for buying in the marketplace, but instead incentivizing the marketplace in the game. So we are preparing like the core game to have, for example, professions in the game where only a certain profession can create certain assets that are necessary for you to basically to evolve in the game. and then that basically creates a different economy. And we are playing with our other ideas as well, and this is easier said than done, but eventually one thing that we want to implement in the game is to try to enable ways for people to, for example, either create their own mini games inside of the game or to create their own, for example, skins in the game and sell the skin. That is not like a completely alien idea. If you look, for example, at Overwatch, they have like their workshop. There's like, even on PlayStation, you can basically build your own game modes inside of Overwatch. So if we basically can grab something like that and allow people to, maybe they don't have the technical skills to basically to build their games, for example, they can still basically build whatever they want to build and monetize that. The only thing is that they still have to use runes. And at that point, basically, it opens up the economy to be a more player-driven economy than instead of being like as a game studio trying to balance the economy. So that's basically that's a very long answer to say that the free-to-play part will be on the core game, because we'll have like other ways to actually to balance the economy and to have like and the economy itself will be completely different as well.
That is very, very helpful, honestly. That's a great answer, and I really appreciate you breaking that down and explaining it, because I actually had not quite understood that myself. I hadn't quite picked up on all those different dynamics and how they work together, so that was super helpful, so thank you.
Yes, and Andy, which Andy is so close to Andy R, and I'm Randy. That's perfect. He asked a really great question here. I saw that you're planning to release an SDK so that artists can create their NFTs that work in the game. What requirements must be met by users who wish to use this functionality? They must pay to make these creations? Question mark.
No, like once you release that, that will be completely free for the artist to use that or for the person to use that. Of course, you have to basically to use our model and fit the model. That's the only limitation of it. But then again, like our idea is to have, and there is something that we basically try to make it very clear. At the end of the day, we want to basically to be like a co-creation powerhouse, right? So allow people to basically express their creativity and build what they want to build. So it doesn't make sense for us to basically to charge for the SDK. We're going to have, however, of course, like as a way to make the company function, we're going to have a fee in the marketplace. It's not necessary for that artist in particular, just like in the marketplace in general, where we'll basically collect a fee for every single transaction that happens. Now, what will basically dictate the success of that particular skin NFT, or even like a I don't know, like a building design or a theme for an entire realm, for example. What will dictate the success of that will be the quality of the art, and also will be basically like the supply and demand, right? If people really like that, they will be able to purchase and then resell it at a higher price if they want to. Yeah, so that's basically it. And of course, like we as a studio, we will still release our own like skins and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean that we will charge for people to release their own skins in the game and designs. Like for me, it's super sad. Now that's another point in this. If you guys go, for example, to ArtStation and you search, for example, Overwatch skins, you'll find like amazing artists that they dedicate like around like 40 to 50 hours creating a design and a skin for Overwatch that you'll never show in the game. And the reason for that is because it is like Blizzard protecting their IP and also protecting their artists. I think that is like, in my point of view as an artist, that's just like completely stupid. If they allowed people to basically to just have their own skins in the game, that will be awesome, because you can find like some really, really amazing stuff there.
It's so unique too.
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to jump in here with a question, not about the skins, but just about the gameplay and about the token. And this is from Logis767. And they ask, will having a rune token give the users an advantage in the game or platform? How does it work? Will it give them a stat boost in the game, purchases, exclusive access to events? I do understand that, you can use it to purchase things within the game, but I just wonder outright, like, is there any kind of advantage of being a holder? Like, you have the free play, but once you become a rune holder, does that automatically give you any kind of boost without actually spending the token? I guess that is my understanding of the way the question is worded.
There are a couple of things that you will be able to do with the token, right? inside of the game itself, we have like multiple divisions of things, like for example consumables, and you also have like mandatory use of the token inside of the game. Where, for example, if you want to upgrade your HQ in order to be a higher level and to have the potential, for example, into either earning more runes or getting like rare items and so on, you need to spend runes. So it is like one of those things that when we are creating the initial design for the economics of the game, of the core game, one thing that we are trying to balance really, really hard is at what point does the player actually takes out runes from the game, because of the sheer amount of use that runes had in the game. I think that like the majority of things that will happen will be from you using runes to boost your own game. That's the best way. That's the best way that I can describe. Like, it doesn't really matter like if you just hold runes. If you hold runes, one thing that we are going to unlock in the future is we have like a background in, again, like our main company is one of the biggest training companies when it comes to VFX games and animation and so on. So by people that just hold runes, and it won't be like a crazy amount of runes, we are going to give people access to like a game development course, and basically like a game development bootcamp. But that is like outside of the game. Like inside of the game, like we actually recommend people like spending runes inside of the game to get to a higher level. And at that point, you are also helping rebalancing the economy instead of just basically holding runes.
Absolutely. That's interesting about the possible option of outside the game, some premier access if you hold the tokens. That's really nice. I like that.
Yeah, like again,
Yeah.
like one of the core things that we have in mind is just like, and I mentioned that before, is have like a co-creation powerhouse, right? So if you're releasing an SDK, you need to have some sort of training to use that. If you're an artist, like you can like have like, for example, Rodrigo create like a series on how to produce art for a game, for example, right? You can basically have like Valnei teaching, for example, how to use Unity. That's something that we want to do and give people access to that. And yeah, it's just like a cool feature to have and allow
Yeah.
people to express their creativity as well.
And unique. I have not, and we've had several different, game developers on here, and I don't know that anyone's had that educational like focus piece on there. So and that's specific too. So I do really like that a lot.
I think that it's because like it's part of our core design and idea that in the future we want to transition more into allowing people to build things on top of Rune Realms. And for
Gotcha.
that, you need to have like the educational factor to show people how to do it as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, very smart.
Yeah,
I have another
I
one, but
love.
go ahead.
Oh,
Yep. Go ahead. I was going to
oh,
say, go ahead and
yeah,
jump in there,
yeah.
Randy.
I was just saying, I love that you have that educational aspect too, because some people really they want to have their creativity be able to, to be able to put into this to a game centric world, and I think it's great that you're gonna have that educational piece in there. Go ahead,
Like
Steph.
that's basically our 9 to 5 job is educate people on how to build games and animation and movies.
Nice. So jumping around a tiny bit here, is that from Arvin? He had asked, and this might be a question for Notify. I don't know how you guys want to answer this, but he asked, how do notify node owners benefit from your collaboration, or do they? Is there what's kind of is there any interactions there?
Yeah, yes. So, Dex, you want to handle it?
No, it's fine if you want to do it. Sure.
Sure. Always just offering, but so
Like
basically, with Notify, the way that the business is structured and the way that it works is that we engage in business to business type of contracts, relations, where we actually build products together with these other businesses. So, as you guys might know, Alpha Shares, we built the back end of the marketplace. The game, of course, as well, we're building the back end of the game and sort of the smart contract layer and a few other bits and pieces. And of course, we just sort of rinse and repeat, right? We do this basically in a similar fashion to how a consultancy would engage with other businesses to create products, to capture value, and rinse and repeat. So we go out and we do that, and in return, we have a B2B arrangement in place to capture a percentage of revenue from that product or from whatever product it is. And so
Nice.
any of the NCU holders, so anyone who is part of the Notify product, We have a phase 2 that is launching in December, and in phase 2 we're going to switch from the current model that we have right now into a revenue share based model, where essentially there is no such thing as a node or an NCU or any concept around that. It's simply that we're a business going out and building software for other businesses, and we will capture a percentage of revenue through that process, and we'll pass a percentage of that back to our phase 1 investors. So anyone who's an investor currently or who is yet to become an investor, who might want to, will be eligible for a percentage of the revenue of all of our partners as part of the phase 2 of Notify, which starts in December.
That's excellent. Thanks for that heads up. So for anyone listening that wants to be a part of that, they've got time to get involved now before that changeover occurs. So that's excellent. Perfect. Thank you. Good explanation.
So we're about around the 1 hour mark here, and I just want to make sure that everybody there's still quite a bit of questions on here that we're not going to have enough time to get through all of them, but I want to really just encourage everybody to go over to the Discord, and that's on the AMA-Deets to join their Discord, to ask the additional questions, take a look at the docs that Carlos put up, to check out more information about the project and what it takes to get involved. So we are gonna just ask one or two more questions, and then we're gonna basically wrap it up. But it reminds me of, like, I was joking around with Steph earlier, but it reminds me about, like, when you go to a bar and it's getting its last call, they're like, "Hey, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here." So go over to the Discord, over to Rune Realms after this. But we have time for just one or two more questions. So I have one here too. So I don't know how to pronounce this. Cronyism asked, why will this game be different from other play to earn games we have seen so far? How will you make it sustainable for a long time, possibly 1 year plus?
Yeah, so like the first game, like the mini game, that is a conversation that we have like with like me and Windex and Quicks. It is super hard to make just a token based game sustainable. That doesn't happen. And there's like multiple factors into that, but one of the factors is that for you to build a game as a company, you need to generate revenue. And whenever you have like a play to earn game, especially when you have like a super high, let's call it dividend payout, you have like two dynamics that are playing against each other. One is the player that wants basically to take money out of the game, and the other one is the studio that wants to make money out of the game in order to basically to fund whatever they're doing. In a couple of cases, what happened is that the studio needs to basically to spend their own token, and that ends up basically tanking the token to be able to basically to fund whatever the studio is building. The way that we see Rune Realms evolving over time is going more towards the part of having a player-owned economy. So it's not like the studio that has like the full power over the economy of the game. We can do things to rebalance the economy, of course. Like, for example, if we need like to add an extra gold sink, for example, because it's emitting too many runes, for example, we can do that. But in the other end, it is important to notice that at the end of the day, like, we are a game studio, and what we do is build products, and that is where like the revenue share part of it basically comes to hand. So for people that participate like in the Rune Realms like mini game, they'll be eligible basically to participate in revenue share in the future, and that doesn't include just Rune Realms, but basically everything that Meta Studio does moving forward.
Yeah, I think I want to add something to that as well, and I think it's actually a really interesting thought that I would encourage everyone to have a think about when you're thinking about a game or even a product that potentially has venture capitalists backing it. In this case, there's no VC money that's like coming in and basically supporting everything to pay for the marketing, to pay for all the initial hype, or to pay for the development and so on, right? If you do have those sort of things, that means that behind the scenes, those venture capitalists got a big cut of the tokens or the money or whatever it was to be able to secure their investment. They're just early investors. So the fact that there's not VCs in play where a large amount of tokens will be sort of passed off to those VCs to be able to sort of like dump on players is a massive benefit, right? It's something that is something that you really want to look for when you're assessing whether or not something might be good as far as the tokenomics or the long-term sustainability of the game.
Can I add to that as well?
Of course.
Well, and I think it's like I think you explained it perfectly well, and I think that the mentality that Quix is describing as well is something very important in the sense that looking at this kind of the strategy like we have Notify have done is also obviously also kind of being reflected here in Rune Realms, where you are like we call it play to earn, but in reality it's play to invest because the players are basically going to be you eventually the first phase. So, and at Notify, we have the same thing. The people that have invested in us, they start owning a part of our profits. And the same thing will kind of come to fruition here, where if you play, like, basically, you could also call it like maybe play to invest, because in essence, that's kind of, you're getting a teaser of kind of what this company is able to do. But you're also going to be able to kind of invest your money to kind of actually get a long-term sustainable investment in a game company that has the chops to actually build these products. So I think that's something to take away from this as well. And I think that's like when we look at the teams from Rune Realms and like from our own team, like there's so many similarities in kind of the way we go about things, and realizing that venture capitalism is actually not a boon for many people involved in the project, especially with our investors, for example. It's not a boon to have a lot of venture capital in there as well. That would never benefit them, but rather they become the venture capitalist in a way. And it makes a lot more sense to do that as well, because you're actually rewarding the people that are actually interested in the game or the product, or and actually have now learned about the team and what they're able to create. So that's kind of my take on it.
I love that. Play to invest, not just play to earn, play to invest. That's a strong, like, there's future to it. It's not about the quick dollar.
Yeah, and just that everything, like, honestly, like, I mean, we've all been around for a while. Everything's been done as far as the typical play to earn concepts and such like that. If someone's coming out, it's like I said before, if someone's coming out with something that you've already seen before right now, then it's like we've already seen that. Like there has to be this natural evolution, and the evolution is the model that you're seeing with products like Alpha Shares, where it's like you own part of the NFT marketplace, or products like Notify, where you own part of this company that builds products and software, or something like Rune Realms, where it's the exact same model. You're capturing a percentage of that business ongoing forward, rather than like a money in, Lambo right away like that. I think we're all learning, and if you haven't learned it, I'm sure people are in this market, but we're all learning like that's not the way this works, and nor should it work like that, right?
Still pressing the Lambo button on some of these projects is not working, dude.
Well, if you guys have a golem and then possibly a Lambo, this project will definitely moon. Absolutely.
Like I think that like there is also like the other part of the coin, that when you look like at the normal like play to earn games that are on the market, and this is a weird dynamic that really only happens in Web3. That is, you have your initial investors that they buy the NFT, and those initial investors are basically your core client that you basically will just resell to those initial investors over and over and over again, right? So that is a dynamic that usually doesn't happen in Web2. Because in Web2, like, you have like the investors that they stay on the sideline, but they're like the core clients, and then it is like the job of the company to actually to find the clients, right? So it doesn't mean that, for example, a client cannot be an investor, but in majority of cases, it is like the company duty to grow the company, then to release products to actually to grow that company, and not just rely on the community that company builds in order to keep funding the project. I think that is a very interesting dynamic, and it really only happens like in Web3, and you see it over and over and over again. One thing that I often play with my friends, for example, not in the Rune Realms, but in Solana. Like Solana, there was like a phase that people would release projects, and then the idea of the project was to basically release T-shirts to sell to the people that bought the project in the first place. Like, how is that a sustainable economy for any sort of business? It doesn't work that well. And the same thing goes to play to earn, right? If you are, for example, let's have the example of Axie. If you're having like an Axie, you are the person investing in the game, and then you have like the incentive of just basically keep buying Axies over and over again. You hit a cap on how many players you can actually bring to the game, and if you don't have other products that support that, it is just like a recipe for disaster.
I think that's what, like, wisdom, right? That's the that's that is true wisdom, and I love that. I think that actually kind of brings us a good kind of almost to a stopping point at the right now with even this conversation, is that, you know, this project is not just it's not just a Lambo project. It's not about a project where it's like instant moon boy type of thing. It's not a fork of a play to earn game. It's not something that we've seen over and over and over again, and maybe it works for a little bit, but it's not sustainable. What we have here is we have a project that has not just good artists, excellent artists, not just good quality, experienced technical people. We have Notify. Not only is it a project that has people that are just have a dream to make a game, these are people that are educating people on how to make a game and developing games. This project is something that has so much value, so much to it, that I encourage everybody here, if we didn't ask your question, or if you still want some more information, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff. I encourage everybody, go to the AMA-Deets area. There's a link to an invite for their Discord. I'd like for all of you guys to go over there, just say hello, say that you were here at the AMA and that you want more information, and that you want to you want information about that whitelist and the stuff that Rune Realms has in store. And there's so much going on. I feel like we're just at the tip of the iceberg of what these guys have coming up. So just to kind of wrap up the show for today, Carlos, just as a departing note, what would you like to let our community know, just to close this out?
I just want to say thank you for everyone for being here and to ask questions as well. Like the AMA will be open, right? So I can answer a couple of questions there.
Yes, the questions channel, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
perfect. Yep. So you're welcome to jump in there and answer people's questions that we didn't have a chance to address live in our Discord here as well. Perfect.
Awesome. Yeah. No, I just want to thank everyone for being here, and also, if you ever develop like a cool product or a cool project, make sure to talk with the Notify team, because they'll be the best partners that you guys can have.
Mike drop.
Oh, thanks.
Well, thank you all very much. And we'll just kind of wrap up our time here. But thank you, Notify, for coming. Thank you, Rune Realms and Carlos, for being here and telling us all about your project. And thank you for Randy for doing an excellent job hosting us today. And I hope that everyone that's listening today live has a great rest of their Friday. And I will have the recording up here soon for those that aren't here. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steph and Randy.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.